having great looking designs isn't just about looking good, it's about mastering and nailing down the fundamentals. And that's where a lot of designers kind of miss the mark on. They just kind of go into it thinking, let's just throw some stuff into Photoshop, Illustrator, make it look cool and post it. But there's so much more that you have to understand as a designer to be truly great at it. And in this video, I'm gonna demonstrate how I kind of approach design by taking this design that I just posted on Instagram and just breaking it down for you and helping you guys improve your font selections, your texturing methods, and even your compositions. No matter if you're working on merch, a logo, or anything in between, this video should help you improve. We'll start off by going over fonts and how I find them and kind of my approach for pairing fonts and all that good stuff. If you look at my design, you're probably gonna first notice that I went with this elegant font for Destroyed. And the reason why I did that is because I wanted to create some separation between the two fonts and also create hierarchy. And not only that is, I felt like it was very fitting for the knight that's kind of kneeling down with a sword. So it just works for me. And I also like how it allows me to sort of entangle the font with the sword just because of how flowy script fonts are. I have a pro tip for you guys when pairing fonts. You never want to pair two of the same fonts. So for example, you never want to use two serifs, two sans serifs, or two script fonts together. It just looks very odd unless that's kind of what you're going for, like something that's super messy on purpose. And again, it's all personal preference. And the cool thing about design is you can do whatever you want. But I'm going to show you guys exactly how I go find my fonts. So this font in particular is called Aphrodite. And let's go actually check it out. So this one is Aphrodite, and you could buy the font family right here. The two websites that I use the most are My Fonts and Fonts in Use. Fonts in Use is really useful for font pairing specifically and just overall inspiration. Let's just click on one real quick just to show you. Let's check out this business card. So it actually says it's from Steve Jobs. I'm not sure if that's actually his real business card, but you could see the font pairing on the right. I don't know how to say this top one. I think it's Motor Texture. It's kind of blocked right there. And then ITC Avent or Avent, Garde, Gothic. I can never pronounce these, I'm going to be honest, but you can see the font pairing on the right. The cool thing about fonts in use is you can actually read a little bit about why the designer chose this font. So for example, if you read right here, you'll see that the logo designer chose this specific font because of its playful qualities, and also it had that techno look. So kind of cool. But yeah, anyway, check it out. That's Fonts in Use. I'll literally spend hours on this website if I don't stop. So anyway, the next one is My Fonts. This one is really cool because you can choose categories. You can even browse by different tags, but let's just choose a category just to demonstrate this. So I'll go serif, and let's just say we like this one. We can actually click on it and we can type out a preview. So let's just type in Paperboy, which is my clothing brand that I own with my good friend Kaylee. You guys can purchase the hat. We have a few left, by the way. Shameless plug, to be honest. But if we go Paperboy Supply and change the font size a little bit, you can see that you literally have access to these fonts in real time. So you can see what they look like with anything that you want to type out, which is great because let's say you're designing a logo for a company, you can kind of visualize what it's going to look like. For example, if we're designing a logo for Paperboy only, I can visualize these fonts and kind of see which one fits the vibe that I'm going for. I typically like to spend 30 minutes to an hour looking for fonts before I even design, just because they're that important and they can make or break a design. Now I think it's time to get into composition, because that's so important too. Like obviously finding a font and making sure it's the right fit for your project is really crucial. But if you don't have a good composition, the font's not even going to save it. So let's dive back into Photoshop. So if you look at my composition here, you'll see that there's quite a bit of balance, and there's even some negative space. So let me grab a paintbrush real quick and kind of go over what I'm talking about. So let's grab this real quick, bam. So if you look right here, there's a big old X, that's the negative space, right? So if I were to box this off, let's just box this off real quick, bam. Bam. Okay, cool. So there's a lot of negative space right here on that right corner, or left if you were to print this. But that could be a good or a bad thing depending on who you're talking to and kind of what your goal is. The reason why I don't mind this is because not only is there room for opportunity on this right corner, but we also don't have to add anything there. And that's what I love about it. Like I can leave it or I can add something. For example, I could have added some stars right there. Let's try that real quick, just for fun. Let's go white, just to match. And let's just grab some stars. Grab some stars. What am I talking about anymore? There you go. See, I could have added like 1 star there, maybe 1 star there, whatever, you know? So I could add these elements there, but I chose not to, obviously, because I didn't think it was needed. But the point is, having this negative space is not a bad thing. It opens up so many opportunities for you to try new ideas out. And in this case, I really wanted the kind of like the quote here to be the main focus. I didn't want the top part to be too heavy because it would have taken away from destroyed, but I will rebuild again, which is the statement of this design. If you look at my layers, you're going to see that I have a black and white layer above everything. And that's really just to visualize what the design looks like without color. You really don't even need this on. You can just delete it because when I add a filter gallery later on, it makes it black and white depending on what your foreground color is anyway. So it doesn't really matter. You don't need it. And that's going to make sense in a second. But let's go ahead and dive deeper into this. So you can see that I have like the other font, which is something that I didn't even talk about. It's just Helvetica. Maybe that's why I didn't talk about it, because it's such a basic font that everybody uses. But it's tried and true, right? But yeah, Helvetica paired with Aphrodite. And I just grouped that so I can center it together. That's pretty much the only reason why it's grouped. Now we can add something in the center here right under that R, but I'm not going to. I decided not to because, again, I liked the idea of playing with that negative space, and I think it worked out nicely. So let's go ahead and move on. Obviously, we have the main image. Now this is actually stacked. So what I have done is I took the night and I duplicated the layer a bunch of times, and I added a motion blur, and I just stacked that motion blur on top of one another in order to build it up gradually versus having one that's like super harsh, right? So let's look at those real quick. Let me toggle this one off. So you can see this one's like really kind of crazy. This one's a little more subtle. And again, they're stacked. And that's pretty much it. Now, another trick that you could do is you can just go to Filter, Blur, and Gaussian Blur and add a slight blur to help blend them together even more. This works especially well if you're working with multiple colors and that's something that you're going for. But in this case, I already knew it was going to be black and white, so I didn't even care. This design's kind of boring on a composition level because I'm not doing a ton of blending or anything like that. It's really simple. Even down to the photo, this is AI generated. I know a lot of people are going to hate on AI, but the truth is we've been using stock photos to design for the longest time. And I think that the idea that AI is just like, I don't know, it's pointless. I disagree with that. Stock images, like I said, have been used by designers. Let's actually look it up. Stock photography dates all the way back to the 1920s and 1930s. So there you go, guys. It's been used before. The only difference is a computer, an AI system is generating images for us. But anyway, that's a whole different video. Let's hide the artwork layers and focus on the main image. So I have a smart filter, as you can see, and under that smart filter, you'll see shadows and highlights. Now, the reason why I do that is because I want to bring out the detail before adding any filter gallery effects. So let's go ahead and click on it and I'll kind of show you my settings. That's it. Pretty simple. So you could toggle the preview off and on, and you can even mess with this some more. We could bring even more detail out, but you want to be very careful not to blow out all the contrast, because if there's no contrast, you have an issue too. But let's cancel that. And that's what it looked like. So now when you put it together, we have this artwork that looks pretty cool. Now, obviously it's not done. We also have some grain layers. Let's go ahead and toggle those on. So I have 1 grain layer, 2 grain layers, and then 3. So I'm just stacking a bunch of grain. I make grain a few different ways. I use reticulation, I use actual grain from the camera raw filter, or I just add noise. So I'll show you the noise method because it's one that I use the most. So I'm gonna create a new layer, and then I'm just gonna press on my keyboard Shift and Backspace or Delete if you're on a Windows device or whatever you wanna call it. Now I'm gonna, I don't know why that was funny, but I'm going to select 50% gray under my fill contents, and that's it. And then let's head up to filter, noise, add noise. And this is where it's just kind of to taste. You can add as much noise as you want. Let's go about 28. I choose monochromatic and Gaussian. You can also choose uniform. I usually just choose the bottom option. That's just what I've been doing for years, and then press OK. Now, the thing about grain is it comes on very harsh. So what I like to do is I like to go to filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and I just add a little bit of blur, like literally 0.8. Press OK, and then I change the blend mode to normally overlay, and there you go. And I just, you could duplicate it and then scale it up. So Command T. I create multiple layers on purpose because I like to change the size of, you know, some of the grain so there's variation. Before you head up to filter gallery, you just want to make sure you don't have any weird colors, like for example red or whatever. So to make these colors default, you just press D, and that will make the foreground color black and the background white, which is what we want. And then we can go up to filter gallery, and now we can start playing with the stamp effect. The filter gallery has its own layers built in. So if you look on the right, you'll see a bunch of like different layers that I have stacked. I typically like to use one stamp layer and maybe 1, 2, or even 3 grain layers. And you guys can kind of look at my settings and copy me. I don't typically take the smoothness more than 3 because look what happens. It just gets very mushy. Unless, again, you're going for that like super thrashy look, I usually keep it around 2. No more than 3. All of these settings are going to change depending on which image you're using because all images have different tonal ranges. So if you're using this exact image and you copied my exact adjustment layers, then you should get these exact results. But again, it just depends on the image. So these are my stamp settings, and then I have 1 grain layer here, intensity 3, contrast 9, and then the grain type is set to regular. And then I stacked that on top of a clumped grain type with an intensity of 23 and a contrast of 62. Let's press OK. And this is what you're left with, my friends. I get asked a lot like how I mock up my designs for Instagram, for example. And I honestly use Texture Labs all the time. I give Brady so much praise because I think he's just doing incredible work for the design community. His resources are just next level in my opinion. And they're so simple. Like he just takes photos and puts them on his website pretty much, like scans them in, whatever he does. But they're really good. And they're really high quality. So I'm just gonna grab this one real quick and copy it. And then let's go back to Photoshop and we'll make a new document just for Instagram. And I forgot the size of it actually. What is it? 13, I think it's this one, 1350 by 1080. And then I just paste it in place. And it's really high quality. So from here, what I do is I just copy my design. So I'm selecting the entire artboard here. And then I just paste that in place and then resize it. But there's one key trick that I do, and I've showed this off so many times, but I just zoom in, get really close, and I left click on this layer twice, which is the night. We can name this design. You can access blending options 2 different ways. You can left click on the blank area of the layer twice and go to it this way, or you can go to layer styles down here and go to blending options that way. Doesn't matter. So from here, I'm just going to go to blend if, and then on the underlining layer, I'm just going to split the arrow by holding an Option on my keyboard. I think that's Alt for PC users. I don't even know. There you go. And I'm just going to go about right there. So now when I zoom out, you can see it actually looks like it's bleeding into the shirt, like it's been aged and, you know, maybe washed a bunch of times. But that is pretty much it, my friends. And then I can save this as a JPEG, a PNG, typically a PNG, and post that on, you know, all of my socials. So that's kind of how I do it. I hope this walkthrough helped you guys out, and I hope you learned something today because that's kind of my goal, to just teach you guys something in every video. Because like, let's be honest, a lot of this information is just repetitive, right? We do it over and over again, but that's kind of the point. You need to keep doing it to practice. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. And if you're not too bored, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already. And if you guys want to pick up a Paperboy hat, I will link that in the description as well. But I miss you guys, and I'm so excited to be back and designing again. And I hope you guys are enjoying it. I'll see you in the next one, all right?